It's hot out here, huh?
Oh my gosh. It's not the heat, it's the humidity. That's what everyone says, right?
Yeah. Oh, I got a leaf blower.
Hi, it's Steph, and today we are going to be planting all the roses, but it's not what you think. We're heading into my vegetable garden, but no, we're not going to pick vegetables today. What I want to show you is that last fall, I had overwintered a bunch of plants in my raised garden beds. As gardeners, we sometimes pick up plants along the way that we don't have a real plan for, and that happens all the time. And last fall, I ended up with a bunch of plants that I needed to do something with before the winter hit. And because I wasn't quite sure what to do with them, I overwintered them here in my vegetable garden since I was done growing vegetables for the season. So let's go ahead and dig out a shrub to plant out in the landscape. Here are some of the plants that I had overwintered. Some boxwood, even some grasses, and some autumn joy sedum, and this beautiful shrub. And while not technically a rose, it is a sugar tip rose of Sharon. It is a beautiful shrub with variegated foliage and these really pretty fluffy pink blooms that are actually kind of reminiscent of a rose. And what I love about this shrub is not only does the foliage offer interest, but it also blooms later in the season. So this is a mid to late summer through possibly early fall, depending on where you are, for their bloom time. These shrubs here are hardy in zones 5 through 9, and they love full sun. They also have a medium deer resistance, so I'm hoping that that is true in my garden because I do deal with some deer. It's probably an average size shrub at about 5 to 6 feet tall and 4 to 5 feet wide, and it grows sort of in a vase shape. So you can actually keep it as a large shrub, or you can prune it up and make it look like a small tree. Another really great thing about this sugar tip rose of Sharon is that it is seedless. Sometimes with the older varieties of rose of Sharon, they are not sterile, and so they will drop seeds and they can become kind of invasive. They will start sprouting baby seedlings of rose of Sharon all over the place. I know that my parents' house, their neighbors have a hedge of them along the driveway, and they drop seedlings everywhere. So I was really excited to find a variety that was seedless, had variegated foliage, and an abundance of these beautiful fluffy pink blooms. I decided to plant the rose of Sharon here in this area outside of my vegetable garden. And I'm going to show you what I've been working on in this area. So as you leave my vegetable garden, there is this spot that kind of leads up to the yard and to where my home is. And over the last couple of years, I've been working on cleaning out this spot because this was run over with weeds, and pretty obnoxious weeds too. I had some pokeweed, mugwort, and a bunch of other random, like native or invasive, I should say, grasses. Things that just looked really wild and unruly. So as we've been working on cleaning this space up, we've been adding some heavy-duty landscape fabric to suppress the weeds. And over time, my goal is to have some ground covers coming down this hillside, as well as a mixed shrub border as you head up into the yard. So along there, I plan on having a mixed shrub border. So for now, I've started to plant some junipers, and I have this juniper sea green that's pretty drought resistant and deer proof, so it is great for this area. I picked these up on clearance at the end of the season last year, and I have one there and one on the other side. I've also planted a bunch of these Bar Harbor junipers that are ground cover. I have about 9 of these planted. I have one up there, here, here. And these are great shrubs for living ground cover. They are evergreen. They're also drought resistant, pretty deer resistant, and they are great for erosion. So if you have a hillside, difficult area to plant and you want to do some kind of evergreen ground cover, this Bar Harbor juniper with this blue-gray foliage is a really great plant to look into. So taking you back to the other side, you can see that we've been collecting rocks too. So anytime I dig up rocks from the garden, I have been placing them here. So eventually this whole slope area will be rocks and ground cover evergreens. And then the shrubs as you get into the border of the yard. So we all have these less than perfect areas that we're working on. I have a 5-year plan for this area of the garden. So slowly we'll get it done. We are currently on year 2.
We got worms.
Oh, and we have worms. So this is a great, yeah, it's very good. This is a sign of healthy soil. So this is where I'm going to put my rose of Sharon. So the area is not aesthetically gorgeous at the moment. You know, obviously it's just a hole in some black landscape fabric, but like I said, I have a 5-year plan for this area. So eventually I will have tree or shrub, evergreen shrubs, rocks. It'll look really pretty. I can see it over time. This will all be landscaped, this hillside, and then the border as you head up into the yard. So all in all, I think it's going to look great. So let's go ahead and get this Rose of Sharon planted.
It's hot out here, huh?
Oh my gosh. It's not the heat, it's the humidity. That's what everyone says, right?
Yeah. Oh, I got a leaf blower.
Now I'm going to go ahead and dig up this Rose of Sharon that I had overwintered here in this garden. Some people will call that healing it into the ground, and that's essentially what I did. You can actually still see the root ball that's sort of a little bit raised in the soil there. So George is helping me a little bit today. He's going to go ahead and dig that up so that we can plant it in its new spot. Is she in there?
Not too bad.
Not too bad, good.
But it was already starting to bite. You could feel it. I think it was starting to dig in.
Yeah, so ideally...
It was starting to take hold.
It was starting to take hold, yeah. So ideally, you don't want to have something in a temporary spot for much more than a season because it will start to root and then it just makes things a little bit difficult to move. But so far, this one hasn't been too bad. Looks good. Nice root development. I'm adding a little bit of compost to my planting hole and just kind of mixing it up with the native soil, loosening everything up and making a good base for my new shrub. And I always like to add a little bit of a startup fertilizer. I really like the Spoma Organic Biotone. You can use any type of startup fertilizer. It just helps to get the roots going for the plant. How are the blooms looking on the front of the shrub? Like, which way should I face it, George?
Looks good on all sides.
It does, because it's really fluffy and it's kind of, woo!
Well, that wasn't good.
No, it's kind of in full bloom right now. So pretty. Okay, I think this will be good. As you're planting, you also want to make sure that you're adding water to your planting hole so that you can settle any air pockets that you have of soil. And once everything is nice and tightly packed and all the soil is in, you can then give it a final watering. I'm here between a hinoki and a smoke bush. And what I'm doing is I'm actually moving this golden juniper that I had planted a little bit further down. It was planted between a couple of rocks, and I think what was happening is that the rocks were generating a lot of heat, so this shrub was starting to burn. So what I'm doing instead is that I'm going to go ahead and plant it right behind this green hinoki evergreen, because I think the contrast of the green with the yellow will look really nice, and it is still on a downward slope so that the yellow shrub, the golden juniper, will create sort of a ground cover. I had some rhododendrons planted in this spot, but the rhododendrons were getting a little too much sun because this hillside is a really sunny area. And rhododendrons prefer a little bit of shade. They're a part shade shrub. So I moved the rhododendrons, this space opened up, and so now this is the new home for this golden juniper. And rose number 2 is this beautiful fountain grass called Karley rose. I recently picked this up on one of my garden center trips to the Home Depot, and what caught my eye were these beautiful rosy pink plumes. So this grass here is one that gets to be 2 to 3 feet in height. They get to be 36 to 48 inches in width, so they get pretty good size, and they are hardy in zones 5 through 8. So I am planning on planting this beautiful ornamental grass here somewhere in my front walkway. So let's go over and take a look at a couple of options for a place to plant this. And a quick update on one of my Japanese maples. A few videos back, I had gone on vacation and left my garden for 9 days, and I showed you what things looked like when I returned. And this poor Japanese maple had been knocked over by the wind, and so when it rained, it never got watered. So it had crisped up and lost all of its foliage. Well, I am happy to report that it has started to leaf out again, and it has a bunch of new buds, and it's recovering really well, which is really great. And we're planning on planting it out this fall. Option number one was right here at the end of this bed, so that as I come down the driveway, I would see it for some late summer, early fall color. But then I thought that it would block the view to my bobos as they get larger, and I didn't want to do that. And option number two is going to be right in the top there next to my Hinoki cypress, because I think that the plumes are going to pop really nicely against the backdrop of green. So I'm going to have George move it there, and we're going to take a closer look. And here's option number two at the corner of this bed here. And I think that this is the winner. I really like the difference in texture between the evergreens and the grassy foliage, and those plumes in the pink really pop against the dark green. So this is the winner. So I'm going to work on digging up this nepeta and this salvia, and then I will get to planting my Karley rose fountain grass. So do you grow these two roses? The sugar tip rose of Sharon that I planted over in my new garden area that is my mixed shrub border. I'm really excited to see how it does over time. I think it'll be a great addition to that area with the contrast of the variegated foliage and those really pretty late season blooms. Or the Karley rose pennisetum. How does it do for you in your garden? I think it's going to also look really lovely in my front walkway with those plumes that will contrast against the Hinoki cypress. So I think it was a great addition. Let me know what your thoughts are about these. Do you grow them in your garden yet? Or maybe I showed you something today that you're planning on maybe trying in your garden in the future. I just hope that they do a lot better for me than the real roses do in my garden, the ones that I'm currently nursing back to health in my rose ICU. And if you're wondering about this beauty, this here is the HS Date Dahlia. It's a really pretty dark foliage, nice and sturdy dahlia that doesn't get too tall. The pollinators absolutely love it and has a really gorgeous orangey colored bloom. I think I'll grow it every year going forward. So if you enjoyed this video, I would love it if you could give me a thumbs up. Thank you so much for spending your time with me, and I'll catch you in the next one.
Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, please hit the thumbs up button. And please consider subscribing so you don't miss any of my future videos. And we'll see you soon.